Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm talking with Shifa Saltagi Safadi. Shifa is the author of Kareem Between, winner of the 2024 National Book Award for Young People's Literature, along with having written several other picture books as well. She's here today to talk about her newest chapter book series about a determined and clever third grader with a STEM twist titled Amina Banana. We'll explore both newly published stories, Amina Banana and the Formula for Friendship, and Amina Banana and the Formula for Winning. I am so excited to welcome Shifa back to the podcast, so let's get right to it. Shifa, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here again.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
4 words for you. National Book Award winners!
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a whirlwind, and this past year has been a dream come true.
Yeah. Oh,
Absolutely amazing. I can't believe it.
I'm so glad. And listeners, I will link in our show notes the episode where we got to talk about that beautiful book all the way back in episode 86.
Wow.
For those that haven't listened yet, or just want to know a bit of your story, I'd love for you to give us some of the details between I'm going to write a children's book to National Book Award winner with a brand new chapter book series coming out too.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always loved to write. I've always loved to read as far as I can remember. I was, I loved books since I was in second grade, and I remember a particular dolphin book that I hid in my book bag wanting to take home from my classroom. And I remember like shelves and shelves of Nancy Drew books, and I've always loved to read. And I was writing like very early on in elementary, writing stories and poems and just jotting things down and wanting to be a writer. But I didn't start like actively pursuing a career until I was much older. I did take English literature in college, and I remember throughout high school also reading and writing and wanting to be a writer. But I think when I look back on what spurred me to write, I realized the reason that I never actively, took a step forward in the first place was because I never saw Muslim books growing up. So, growing up, honestly, like, and I love reading books by people of all different races and colors and backgrounds because, reading is just, it's so human. And I think we can find ourselves in any book. And I did find myself in myself in so many books. But I think like seeing no Muslim books growing up did make me feel like a little bit like, is anybody ever going to want to read a book if I write it about myself? And, naturally, if I write a book from my perspective, it's going to be Muslim and
Mm-hmm.
Syrian American, So I think that like after I graduated from college, I got married, had kids, did some teaching as well. I taught ELA at a middle school, and I just, never like, pursued it. I don't like to say the word forget, but I almost did forget it, but it was still there. I just kind of just, let it kind of, float in my brain, And then my kids started getting older, and my oldest, he was about 4 or 5 years old, and I started like getting him all books, and I really wanted him to be a reader because I'm a reader, and like also I really believe reading is so important for children's development. So I looked around for books and I was wondering, how can I get him to see himself in books? And I looked around for Muslim books and I started seeing some on shelves. There was a Ramadan Curious George book that was a board book at the time. There was a few Muslim published books, and there was also a few novels that had just come out. One of the first novels I ever read was by S.K. Ali, and it was called Saints and Misfits. So I remember I got him those books, and then I also got Saints and Misfits for myself. And oh my gosh, like just seeing him light up at seeing himself in a book, and then on my own reading Muslim stories and seeing myself through the pages was life changing. And I immediately, I was like, wait, I wanted to be an author too, immediately. So that's why I'm saying I didn't really forget it because it just came back. And I was just thinking to myself, like, this is what I wanted to do. And, I never had the bravery really to do it. So as of then, like immediately, I started, I got my computer out, started writing again. And, my first drafts were not very good. They were not. I don't know if this is a newbie thing or if this is a me thing, but I like submitted to agents right away, very convinced that these were the best things ever. Like, and obviously got rejected. And I mean, they weren't very good. I didn't understand plot or character or craft. I would get an idea, write it down, and think like, oh my God, this is great. My kids love it. Therefore, it must be
It
good.
must be good.
So, so it took me a while after getting quite a few rejections. I was like, okay, all these agents like must be on to something. So I went back to, try to figure out like what is it that I'm doing wrong here. And so I reached out to other Muslim authors. I have a friend that I actually grew up with. Her name was Aya Khalil, and she's a picture book author. And I reached out to her. I was like, I saw that she had the Arabic quilt that was announced with, I believe, Tilbury Publishing. And I told her, hey, like, do you have any advice? Like, I'd love to, I'm on this. So she gave me a lot of good resources, courses, and talked to me a little bit about like, hey, you really have to like learn from this website and this website. So I started doing that. I took a lot of courses, signed up a lot, started perfecting the craft and learning books, reading more. The more you read, I went to the library and just really started understanding the industry a little bit more. And that's when, my writing started to improve. And that's when I finally got an agent. And then I met my wonderful editor and, submitted manuscripts. And rejection is just a part of the process. I mean, even until now, there are some books that just don't find a home. But I think like I've definitely changed as a person too. Like now, if a story doesn't find its home, then I'm on to the next thing and I just write, my next work. And it's just a journey. And when you realize that it's a journey, you just keep going and going. And getting in between was part of that journey. My debut middle grade and winning the National Book Award, which was so wonderful and so unexpected. But it's really a journey because Kareem's award opened the door for me to even like work more on more books, which is I think like what all authors want. We want to continue in this industry. You don't just want one book out and then you're done. Writing is like breathing for me. I love it. I love writing. So I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to make a name for myself and have space in this industry, and hopefully it means that there will be more and more books coming like Amina Banana.
Yes, I was going to say it does. It does mean that because we're already talking about two more. There are also picture
Yes.
books
Yes.
that you have written as well. And now what a feeling now to go. It feels, at least from my point of view, it does feel very full circle of
Yes.
looking for books that weren't there and
Yes.
then searching for your children, wanting that for you, of course, but
Yes.
certainly for your kids and finding them, seeing that one little spark, perhaps that one mentor that said, "Oh, I could do that." And now just coming back around and filling the shelves for other kids to be able to see. And my goodness, a debut as such a beautiful book award winner. It's so well deserved. Your first drafts, according to you, might not have been so great, but my goodness, what we
Well,
got in our hands was.
thank you. Well, to put it into perspective, my kid was like 4 years old when I started searching for Muslim books, and he's now 14. So
Yeah. You did
10
say it was
years.
a journey. You said it
Yeah.
was. You said it was a journey.
So it was definitely a journey. Yes.
Yeah. I also love what you said about stories. Some stories perhaps not seeing publication doesn't mean it's still not a story,
Yes.
it's still not there, but being able to move on to the next thing. But perhaps that story might lead to some other story in, let's say,
Absolutely.
3 years or 4 years, and just
Oh,
having
yes.
all of these wonderful things kind of swirling around you. I can feel your energy through the Zoom screen. It's like they're buoying you up for whatever's next.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And so that has happened even with Getting Between and Amina Banana. These ideas, they don't just come like ready made, you know? Getting Between, there was a middle grade that I wrote before Getting that was about a boy who loved football, but it was a totally different plot. But that was like the trial run,
Yeah,
you know? And then even with Amina Banana, like I knew I wanted to write a chapter book series because I grew up reading chapter book series. You know, I grew up reading Judy Moody and Amelia
yeah,
Bedelia, and oh my gosh, I knew I was like, I know I want to write this Muslim chapter book series, but I didn't know how it was going to come about. And there was a graphic novel chapter book series that I even drafted and we pitched and it didn't work out. But the next step after that, I was like, well, let me try a prose series and that was Amina Banana. So writing is definitely like you take ideas from here and from there and you have ideas and then you like kind of like dust them off until you find the shining gold underneath.
yeah. And it sounds like you just stay in it. You stay
Yes.
in the so-called work because it doesn't
Yes.
seem like work from my
Yes.
point of view of listening to you talk about it, but you're
Yeah.
constantly in it and moving to the next thing and writing and thinking and sharing. And I imagine the energy from what's happening in your life right now is just fuel for the writing you do
Absolutely.
now.
Absolutely. I mean, it definitely gives me a little bit more confidence
Mhm.
seeing people receive Kareem and Amina so well. You know, Amina's gotten 2 stars like already, and it's just surreal to see as well. You know, like when you write, sometimes it feels like, will these words mean anything? Will they matter? Are they good enough? And so seeing positive, reactions fuels you because, I feel like, okay, they're making a difference. They're getting out there. People are resonating. And so it fuels me because that confidence grows. And
Yeah.
I think confidence is the key to any author's work.
Yes. Yes, for sure. So let's talk about the new chapter book series. You mentioned a little bit of perhaps where it came from or where the ideas grew from. We've got a third grader. It's got a STEM twist. I think, as I mentioned before we recorded, I think that I share personality traits with her as well, with her love of formulas and trying to figure things out. Give listeners a bit of an overview of the series as a whole and that inspiration, and then we'll dive into a little bit of each of the titles.
Absolutely. So, Amina Banana is a chapter book series about a third grader who was in Syria and had to flee Syria due to the war there. And she homes in Indianapolis. And so, obviously, as any young girl, she has to adjust her whole life in this new home with a new language, new surroundings, new friends. And so, Amina is a very science driven, very, analytical person. She loves lists, she loves formulas. So she decides, I'll just come up with a formula for everything. And one of the things she does in the first book is, she comes up with a formula for friendship. And she thinks, okay, American friends, I have to, speak English perfectly. I have to, adjust to eating American food. I have to wear American clothes. I have to do all these perfect, things in order to make American friends. And throughout the book, she kind of explores this formula and she realizes that, life can't always be a formula and that it might not be exactly how she plans it. But, they are happy ending books. Every one of them, even if they're not like exactly what she plans in the beginning, she does learn, something valuable by the end. And it does end in a very joyous, conclusion. So with Amina Banana and the formula of friendship, she realizes what true friendship is, and it's not something that's confined to formulas. And in Amina Banana and the formula for winning, it continues that same journey, that same arc with Amina Banana adjusting to life. And in the second book, the focus is on her language. So she's in English as an additional language class, and there's a spelling bee, and she just does not like spelling. And so she is, thinking to herself, hey, if I win this spelling bee, I'll finally prove to everybody that, I don't need English as an additional language class, and I'm smart enough as I am. Because that's kind of how Amina is. Her character is very spunky, and she's very, like, very joyous and also driven and stubborn a little bit as well. So she comes up with a formula for winning the spelling bee, but also throughout the story has to figure out what the true meaning of winning is. That winning might not mean a first place trophy, and winning can mean many different, things for somebody. So it has STEM with the formulas. I also have a science experiment in each book because she
Yeah.
loves science, and I think it's just so fun for kids to read about these special science experiments. But I also, the heart of the book, I think, is the social emotional learning.
Mhm.
So every book kind of takes this formula and turns it around and offers the reader something valuable about, emotions and about, dealing with life, because I think especially in the chapter book age, a lot of books are silly and joyous, which is wonderful, and I love that so much. But I did want to offer also life lessons for kids, because they are going through, my own kids, through second through fifth grade, they're going through those, emotional and social issues at school with friends and with grades and trying to figure out who they are. So I think kind of having that, subtle messaging can help kids with figuring out their own lives.
Mhm. That right there is the gift of books, right? That right
Absolutely.
there is using the book as a
Absolutely.
way to first just dive into a story that is appealing and
Yes.
exciting and propelling, and also learning about myself, learning about others, learning about the world, but through a story so that we
Yes.
feel it, and we really internalize it. And as I mentioned, I so relate to some of the character traits of Amina. Um, what I loved though, I really loved, and you touched upon this in the structure as well. She has a formula,
Yes.
and the idea of having a formula, at least in my little girl mind, because I used to do the same thing, was to feel a sense of control as
Yes.
much as I could
Yes.
when the world around me wasn't necessarily in my control. And so I could picture myself in my own lists that I used to create. But what I love what you did with the structure of it is you started with the list of here's the formula, here's
Yeah.
what's going to work. And then at least in the first book, one by one, they get crossed off and perhaps scribbled off towards the end as you realize that perhaps the formula isn't the focus and there's something else that is to be learned. And so I just loved the structure because I feel like it's so literal and concrete for kids to grab onto and help with that underlying lesson just really come to the end as both Amina has this realization and the reader does too inside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's almost like, I love reading mysteries, and that was just such a formative part of my childhood. So in a way, formulas are very also like mystery driven, because, it's like offering the reader, okay, will this formula work out? Like they're almost on this journey themselves to figure out, like, is she going to speak English perfectly? What's going to happen if she doesn't? And it offers those stakes to the reader, so they're invested. And as you said, I relate as well. I still write lists for everything. And I don't know that that's ever going to stop, because life
Yeah.
does get so busy. And sometimes just writing the list is like emotionally beneficial.
Yes. I completely agree. And then I also related too in the second book with the formula for
Yeah.
winning. In the first book, the list is kind of crossed off as we go, as she's learning that perhaps it's not the formula that I should stick to, it's something else. But then in the formula for winning, I loved because this is also me that sometimes when we have our list, we might stick to it a little too
Yeah.
perfectly and obsessively. and realize that there is a consequence for that as well that offers an opportunity for learning. So in just the two books alone, I could see myself. I know a lot of other kids will. I know adults will. I just truly love the way that you've structured it in this concrete way that makes that lesson just come to life for kiddos. And to learn these skills when you're reading an early chapter book, instead of the adult reading the chapter book, that's such a gift at that age.
Thank you. I really like that was the intention behind the series. And there are two more next year for the Amina Banana series and potentially two more in the coming years. So, the goal behind each book is to provide readers with that sense that, and it's not going to be like, I don't want it to be too cookie cutter. So the formulas, it's not like every book is going to have a formula that she scratches out and realizes doesn't work. It is going to change. It is going to be different. But I think that it makes it kind of fun to see her try to come up with formulas for different things and try to like control things when, you as the reader, you're kind of going to be like, is she going to, solve that? What's going to happen here? And I love providing that. And you're right. I think, with the first book, her formula itself was faulty, even though that she does end up with the end result. Whereas with the second book, she realizes that maybe focusing too much on the end result was faulty in the first place. So, it does have that variety as well for kids to not feel like it gets too cookie cutter.
I do want to talk more about the back matter as well. You already mentioned having some science experiments in
Yes.
there, but there are recipes too.
Yes.
So I'd love for you to talk about that and give listeners a sneak peek into what they might find as a little surprise at the end.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I really, really love that Amina loves food because it is such a Syrian thing. I think all of us love food. But like Syrians take pride in cooking and we take pride in like our heritage through food. I mean, anything you do, there has to be food. It's not very healthy, but it's fun. We go to the park, we're probably carrying a snack with us, where anything we do is like, it just has to have food with it. So Amina really, really loves eating and she loves cooking. And I think part of it is her love for formulas because recipes are similar to formulas. And it's also the way she connects with her father. So her and her dad love to spend time in the kitchen and cook. Her mom isn't very good at cooking, and her mom doesn't really like to cook either. So her dad kind of
So I could relate there also.
and I think like it was like a way to kind of it brings a touch of my heritage to the books because I'm able to share it with readers, which I really, really love to do. And I tried to pick recipes that would be unique and, something to offer a little bit of a taste of Syria for those who want to try it. She does cook during the book, so you'll see her cooking during the book. And then also that recipe at the end will give you step by step how to cook it. And I'm currently trying to like put them on YouTube too, like quick kind of clips, and I attach them to my website so you can also see me as I cook them, and kind of like follow along. And I think like it would be fun for kids too, because I mean, I don't know about your kids, but my kids love to cook too. And I mean, sometimes it's like, I don't want you to mess up the kitchen today.
Right?
But sometimes it does give them something to like, feel accomplished and proud of when they finish that recipe.
Yeah. I have yet to learn that particular skill, but I am trying. I am trying. And the one that I really think I could do though is I think I could pull off the rice with peas. I could
Yes.
pull that off, I
It's a
think.
pretty easy one. And honestly, it's amazing how those textures come together. Like my kid, it's one of my kids' favorite foods, even though it takes me about like 20 minutes to make.
Yeah. Well, even better, right?
Right? Yep.
Now, early chapter book series and some wonderful illustrations scattered throughout the books, which is why I love early chapter books because they still have a little bit more of that visual element to keep that front and center. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that so we can give some kudos to the illustrator too,
Absolutely.
who just did a wonderful job.
Absolutely. Alia Jalil, who illustrated Amina Banana, did such a fabulous job. I mean, I did have some say in who Amina, like what Amina looks like, and I did give some character notes when I first wrote the series, but I mean, she brought Amina to life so beautifully, and she inserted a little bit of her own pizzazz. I mean, the little tooth gap that Amina has in her mouth is the cutest thing ever, and that was totally Alia. And when I saw it, I was like, yes. Amina has to have that little cute tooth gap. It's so cute and just the exuberance and the energy. I mean, she did such a good job through flipping through the pages. I was blown away and even like I saw the sketches and PDFs before, but even just holding the book in my hands and seeing, I mean, she just did such an amazing job. She also illustrated my picture book, The Gift of Eid. So I was very familiar with her work, and every time I see her sketches and drawings, I'm so impressed. She really, really, she's Muslim as well, but she's not Syrian. But she was able to do so much really good research on like the Syrian style of hijab, and
Mhm.
she really brought a lot of authenticity and joy. And like, I'm just so grateful to her for her beautiful designs, like the front cover with the little designs. Like each one has its own color palette and
Yes,
its own cute designs. I mean, and the bananas on the spine. Oh my God, they're so cute.
I know.
You
I
just,
know. And the little one in the title,
I know. Oh my
packing
gosh.
it down.
And you know, her being Muslim was really really awesome too, because I think she was like able to bring like certain authenticity to it as well. Like when Amina's at home, she's not wearing hijab. And you know, her mom's not wearing hijab, and like certain details like you can kind of just, I trust that she's going to bring that authenticity and that kind of same like faith-based values. So it's really nice to see and work with her, and you know, she's just done such a fabulous job. I'm so excited for people to see her beautiful art.
Yeah. It really does allow the reader to truly live in the story. They are
Yeah.
so strategically placed and certain
Yes.
scenes are so beautifully illustrated. I think my favorite, I don't know if I can pick one favorite, but the one that just has my heart is in the Formula for Winning.
Uh-huh.
It's on page 80 because I know you have your book and it's the group hug. It's the group hug.
Yes.
It's just the love and the emotion that is conveyed in the picture. Oh, just had my heart.
She did an amazing job with Joy, because I think like Amina being a Syrian refugee, I was very concerned that it would come off as a sad story, because you know, being a refugee is very difficult. But you know, I wanted it to be a joy story, because yes, she has, you know, fled war and she is still dealing with a little bit of those, you know, deeper themes, but she is very much a positive child. And the stories are full of joy and humor and happiness. And Alia's drawings really brought that joy. I mean, they are so full of happiness. You can feel the love.
Man,
I mean, she just did such a great job. Just you know, seeing that they're perfect. Like I couldn't have imagined them any way better. She just really brought to life the joy and the happiness and the family, and oh my gosh, so so awesome.
it was the perfect pairing.
Yes, it was. It is. It is absolutely.
Now you've mentioned more in the series. Do you get to give us any sneak peek into that or anything else that you're also working on?
Absolutely. So book three is out in January 2026. So it's an like what is it? I'm very bad at math. 7 months, 8 months.
Me too. I just teach reading. So, yes, let's
Exactly.
just say that.
Funny enough, book three deals with a lot of math concepts.
I need it.
And it's titled Formula for Making Money. It is available for pre-order. The cover's not up yet, but it's about Amina continuing her journey of trying to find her place in America. Her parents are going through some financial difficulties. So obviously, as the formula-driven girl she is, she comes up with a formula for helping her family make money. And she kind of has to also, you know, grapple with a lot of mistakes and fumbles, but in a very silly and joyous manner, as always. The fourth one is titled Formula for Fairness, and that one is due to come out in May 2026. So it's a few months after Formula for Making Money. And that one is there's a science fair. So she has to work on a science fair project, which normally would be a really exciting thing for her, except she's paired with her frenemy, Tara.
Good
So
old frenemy story.
yeah, so she has to kind of figure that out and, it kind of figure out like how to work through differences and how to figure out, like and obviously she does not think it's fair at all. So those are kind of, where the series is headed for now, and hopefully more in the future, although they're still in the planning stages. So I can't say any more about the others, but, you know, I'm really excited for this series, and it just continues with the same formulas, joy, science, food, and, happiness all around.
And relatable things,
Yes.
friendship, spelling
Yeah.
tests, money, science fairs,
Yes.
all things that readers will likely have something to connect to and of course learn from as they figure out the whole formula and what that means for her. Oh, I'm so glad to know that we have more. We have at
Thank
least two more
you.
coming on the way.
Thank you so much.
Oh gosh,
I
you're so
can't wait.
welcome. I am just so excited for them. I would love for you to tell listeners where they can find you online so that they can keep up with your newest releases and what's coming next and everything else that you have going on in this very busy book world of yours now.
Absolutely. You can find me online at shifasaltagi.com. So shifasafadi.com. It's my first and last name. And that's my website. I have all my books and a contact page for if readers want to contact me. I love hearing from readers or getting fan mail. And I love sending teachers bookmarks and book plates and stuff. So I
Yes.
do. I love hearing from educators as well. And I'm also on Instagram. My full name, Shifa Saltagi Safadi. It used to be Mommy blog, but I have sort of stopped reviewing as my writing career picks up, and
Yeah.
changed my handle to reflect that. So you can find all about, upcoming announcements and book deals and a lot of really fun stuff, hopefully.
Wonderful. I will put links to all of those places in the show notes, and I will attest to the beauty of the bookish bling that you have around the books. So
Thank you.
exciting. I'm just so happy for you. It is so well
Thank
deserved. I'm so honored to be able to be part of helping to
you.
put these books into the world. And I'm so grateful you came back for a second
Thank
conversation.
you.
And who
Thank you
knows?
for having
Maybe
me.
we'll third time could be the charm as you keep going. Thank
Thank you.
you for coming back. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you loved what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of Kid Lit Love. Thanks for listening.